Are you ready to become awesomer? Hello everyone, this is Umar Hamid, your host, and welcome to the No Limit Selling Podcast, where industry leaders share their tips, strategies, and advice on how to make you better, stronger, faster. Get ready for another episode. Hello, everyone. Today, I've got the privilege of having my friend, Ivan Gomez here. He's an expert at helping salespeople, inside sales teams do better. Ivan, welcome to the program.
Umar, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for the invitation.
So let's start with the name first. Of course, in America, we pronounce it Ivan, and Ivan is very Latin.
Absolutely. Actually, Ivan is the actual native pronunciation. I moved to the States close to 30 years ago, and I lived in New England for quite some time. And for a long time, people call me Ivan. I become accustomed to, but as I moved down this area, which is a little more international, the original name, the native name, which was obviously my mother's name, so my native name became more prevalent, which I'm okay with.
So you've heard of Ivan the Great, or Ivan the Terrible, I guess. Have you heard of Ivan the Terrible?
Yeah. So the story goes that when I was born, my dad, who's an economist by trade, and I'm fortunate to still have him alive, and he's retired now. He's always been an avid reader. So he was a big fan of the Russian novels, and apparently I was named after one of those characters in one book that he read. Might have been, Ivan the Terrible. So I don't know.
So what's kind of interesting, before we get into the subject of sales, it's kind of interesting is that Ivan the Terrible, before he was terrible, became, emperor or ruler when he was really, really young. His father had died, he took on the throne, but he had people around him basically helping him manage the state.
Yeah.
And they decided that, before he became a man and took charge, if they could break him psychologically, they could control him for the rest of his life and be in charge of Russia. So they abused him severely, and when he became a man, he got even and gave all the lords that were running Russia at the time an option. Either you're with me or you're against me, and they started a state within a state that basically ran Russia, and we still have it to this day.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
It's definitely a fascinating story. So, and there's been movies and books about it. So, not sure if it's an officially recommended reading, but I think it's a good start to get acquainted.
And it's all about human behavior, and that kind of sets us up on our conversation today, that picking up the phone and calling someone to introduce yourself and make a sale almost seems like it's a lost art. There's so many courses out there. Never cold call again. Cold calling is dead. This new, amazing, super fantastic social media way is going to be better. Kind of what are your thoughts? Is cold calling dead?
The short answer is not. It's not. What happened is that cold calling has actually evolved, and it has morphed to different ways. Where early stage sellers or sales developers or inside sales, when they're prospecting, are using many different tools. But it's like a carpenter. If you have a box of tools, are you going to put away your hammer just because you have an electric hammer? Or are you going to put away your screwdriver just because you have an electric screwdriver? The answer is no. You use many tools to accomplish the goal that you are trying to accomplish. And if you use those tools effectively, you will be very well off in terms of sales, because if you have a healthy pipeline, you will have also and you understand the process, you will have successful outcomes.
Let's say we had a client. Let's pick an industry. I'm going to pick a company that does website development.
Mm-hmm.
You've got some founders that are really talented at programming, and they want to get clients. And they've been getting a few deals in, and they're doing a decent job, but they can't grow without a proper sales department. So they decide to set up an inside sales department. Let's say they're doing $500,000 in revenue. There's 4 people in the company, and they want to kind of grow to $5-6 million as the next phase. If you were consulting with them to set up an inside sales department, how would you go about doing that? What are the first steps? And why don't we kind of deconstruct that as you go to be a really good learning experience for people listening to our conversation on how to set up a sales team?
An inside sales organization, and this is a really, really good question. So departing from the aspect of prospecting and focusing more on how to establish an inside sales organization.
So
Number
more so
one,
clearly on this example would have been some people that just had some friends that needed websites. They got a couple of referrals, so they're kind of doing business, but not officially a sales team. Just, you know how a lot of people start out. It's just like get a couple of clients, we grow it a bit, then they stagnate and just stay at that level. But let's say one of those people that had accidental business now want to set up an inside sales team and formalize the sales process.
yeah, excellent question, because I do have a friend actually in the greater Washington D.C. area that went through the exact same process. So let me walk you through that. So this individual is in the medical field, and they developed a product that was FDA approved, small company. The owner had great domain expertise, and he wanted to establish an inside sales organization. So the first thing that I will say is, number one is you have to be 100% committed to this venture. If it's an afterthought, it's not going to be successful. The second thing is an inside sales organization is a great go-to-market strategy that is cost effective initially, but require a very good infrastructure. And what I mean by that is, start with number one. You got to have a very solid strategy in terms of, for example, how are you going to segment the market? Okay, what is the market size that you currently have? What is the point of sale? What is the average ticket price for that particular product that you're selling?
So let's pause there just for a moment. So let's pretend I am the owner of the digital website development company,
Yep.
and you're the consultant, and you want me to help figure out, who's the target, what's the size. So ask me some questions, and I'll make some shit up, and that'll give a real example.
So Umar, that's a big question. For example, none of the question, I'm going to say, Umar, tell me about your target audience and tell me about, your product.
So what we do is we build websites for mid-sized companies that want a great infrastructure to grow their company. So not only do they share their message, but they can interact with their customers. So we're going after companies that are $10 million to $50 million in revenue. They got enough money to pay us, enough money to build the infrastructure that they need to help them grow their company. So not just a pretty website, but a functional website that's going to help them grow.
All right. And so who out of those companies that you mentioned seems like is a small to mid-sized market, if I hear you
Mhm.
correctly, who will be your ideal, target persona that you want to go after?
So we want to go after small biotech firms that are, creating new devices and new processes and new vaccines. So I think we want to focus in the bioscience space.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some traction in the past in that area, and I think we'll have some really good reference accounts.
All right. So SMB, biotech, small and expanding organization that are trying to expand their vaccine practice. Within those companies, who is the person or people that inside salesperson will be speaking with?
So some of these companies are still kind of small, maybe have 20 or 30 people in the company. So it would be the founder and the chief sales officer. I'm not sure what title that is for them, but basically that person responsible for bringing in revenue. So probably those two people, and maybe the CFO if they have one, but primarily the founder and the chief sales guy, who sometimes happens to be the same person.
Yeah, Umar, and in order to establish your inside sales organization, what is the single most important problem that your service or offering is going to help those individuals solve? What is the biggest concern that they have?
So the concern is that they built a website when they were probably pre-revenue, and maybe once they got to $100,000, they kind of redid it, but the website was designed for a much smaller startup company. Now they're a real company. And so if they had the right website, they would be able to attract more talent to come to their company. They'd be able to connect with their customers in a meaningful way and get that feedback loop. And investors looking at their company, one of the places they're going to look is the website. And they don't want to have any doubts that says these people are too small to invest in.
Yep. Excellent. Excellent. So let's pause right here for a second, Umar, and let's take some of the biggest elements out of
Sure.
basic example. So as we start venturing into establishing, an inside sales organization, one, we want to get the sense that the leadership for that organization is really committed to inside sales. The second thing is, do we have an understanding of what is the problem that we're trying to solve? Is this something that is going to have an appetite for the market? I will probably go to the extent, it's like, what is my competitive landscape and what is my competitive differentiator? Okay, so I'll be looking at those things because I want to make sure that I arm my inside sales sellers with that, and we'll go over some of the dynamics as we venture into this conversation. So the other thing that we just we were able to dissect from these, is we want to understand what is our addressable market and what who we're going to go after. Okay, so whether this is a microcosm of what could be a larger example, whether you're launching cybersecurity solution, or we are actually an ERP solution or a point of sales organization. We want to make sure that we understand our market. The other thing is who's going to be our potential buyer, because we in today's sales development effort, the notion of knowing your customers, show me you know me, it's playing a more important role than just sending broad messages. Hey, we're cheaper, faster, better. Look at us. That doesn't work any longer. Okay, so that's another thing. So we're going to understand the industry. We're going to understand the buyer persona, and then the next thing, we're going to understand, what our messaging is going to be like, so we can actually, go after, these individuals more effectively. The other aspect, so I don't know if that makes sense. No, that we can
Okay,
go
so
on and on.
pause there just for a minute,
Yeah,
Yvonne. What you're saying makes perfect sense. So the question to you is this. Out of 100 organizations starting an inside sales team, what percentage do you think really spend time on figuring out who they're going after and doing that groundwork so they hire the right people and have the right tools in place? What percentage would actually spend time doing that rather than just give it lip service and go, oh, we kind of need this and let's go find people? What's your experience been like? How many people actually do the homework before they set out to build a team?
when you're an early stage organization, there are some individuals that do very mild homework. They think, okay, I'm going to have a person. I'm going to give him a phone list. Back 2 or 3 years ago when I was doing management consulting, I encountered a couple of the situations where they they think, okay, we have a product, we're gonna give them a number. We have a list of customer, we bought a list. We're gonna give them a little script and go ahead and call. So
And sales are going to happen.
that's the recipe for failure. That's the recipe for disaster. Then you have the individuals that have a mild level of organization and all that. Then you increase your quality, your chances of success, and then you have the more sophisticated individuals, because then you get into situations of how do we align our inside sales with sales development, with marketing, with sales operation. How do we create an alignment with marketing and the organization? How do we create an alignment with our recruiting team to start the entire process from recruiting? Because so we go to the different spectrums from being extremely basic to a more sophisticated. There's hundreds of people that have inside sales organization. The question is how sophisticated and how organized and aligned they are, with the organizations that they intersect.
Absolutely. And I think that's the reason I brought it up is most people, me included, guilty, would do the bare minimum and just give it a college trial. Let's give it a go. And if it doesn't work, it's a bad salesperson or bad customers, and not realizing that we set the whole thing up for failure.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. These medical product company that I mentioned to, the individual started small but seriously committed to inside sales, and these individuals are right now up to six inside sales organization, inside sales individuals that are going through the prospecting and what I call cradle to grave or lead to close, sales process. So the key right here is start small, build on your success, have a serious commitment, and then start letting your success build, on, your expansion. But, this individual had a good, field presence. But as he was building the field presence and the upper enterprise market, realized that the lower part of the market could be very well served, via inside sales, giving attention to two parts. One, expanding the existing footprint of your customers, number
Right.
one, and two, with new customer acquisition. So, perfect scenario for an inside sales organization that can help grow your business.
So once you've defined this is who we're going after, these are the pain points, these are the tools that we need, reports, white papers, whatever. So once you've got that in place, what technology do you bring in place to get that inside salesperson to be effective?
Well, the very basic, is you need to have your phone. You need to
Yes.
have, a good CRM to call and track all your activity. And then, as you continue to grow, you can actually add additional technology. You can have customer engagement platform. You can have, LinkedIn. Can have some social activity. You can have some phone tracking and coaching technology. You can start including some chat box features on your website where you can actually have live conversations. So you can evolve, but it really depends. All those technologies are expensive and they add to your overhead. So you need to add them as you continue to grow. At the most basic element, obviously most individuals have that basic technology, and now, for example, with Google Suite, people have cloud, and you can have cloud telephony and all that, so that you can bring your cost down. But the key is, more importantly, in the enablement of your sales organization, okay, or that
By
sales
that you
division.
mean?
Yeah. And what I mean by that, Umar, is, are we enabling this individual with the right tools? So I will probably spend some time creating a playbook. Okay. That playbook will become, the rules of engagement and the messaging. What am I going to say? How is going to be my greeting? What kind of pre-call planning I'm going to do? What is going to be my opening statement? What questions I'm going to ask? How am I going to create my flows or my call sequences? Because most often people think that, okay, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to get a prospect, and they forget about the process. So one of the things that I mentioned to our early stage sellers is, you got to understand the process. It's a three-step process. One, create purposeful activity, not just activity, but purposeful activity. That activity will include personalized emails, personalized voicemails, personalized conversations. So you got to leverage, and even personalized social media outreach. So you got to leverage the omni-channel approach. The second pillar is, you got to generate interest. Okay, so you go from purposeful activity to interest and engagement. And the example that I give to our sellers is this: let's say I walk into a party, I'm completely new, you invite me to a social setting. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, I'm going to scout the room, and I'm going to probably gravitate to a group that I feel more affinity. So I'm going to wedge myself into the group, and then I'm going to have a purposeful activity by having meaningful comments, meaningful conversation with the person initially. And some people, let's say we have two or three, five or 10 people in the circle. Okay, I want individuals to listen to me, but I also want to show interest on that individual. The second thing is once I have that initial, purposeful activity, I'm going to generate interest. Oh, this guy Umar or Ivan Gomez, he's a pretty cool guy to talk to. We can talk about anything, and I think we have some affinity, and that's going to lead to the third component, which is engagement. So purposeful activity, interest, and engagement. People, and that's kind of like a little microcosm of a mini sales cycle. Okay.
Right.
So you go from all these three steps, and then you get to the engagement. Is at the engagement component where you earn the right to have the meaningful conversation with your prospect, and then you can start qualifying initially to start a potential initial sales cycle. And you're gonna have a lot of these purposeful interest and engagement to create your pipeline, because if you close one out of four, it's a 25% close, so you're going to have a 4x pipeline that you need. So you need to have lots of those, but you need to have good messaging, good process, good systems to be able to get to building that pipeline. And then as you become more sophisticated, then you add another layer. Let's say you add 5 reps, and becomes a little difficult for that business owner to manage the business. So the next big investment that you're going to make, and it's going to make a significant difference, is you got to hire the right front line manager. Okay.
Should those managers be working managers, as in they got their own book of business, or should it be just focused on getting the best ROI out of the reps we have?
Some small business owners will have what I call a player coach, and that will work for a very short period of time, because these individuals are caught in a challenging situation. One, I have to make the number, and that's first and foremost. And then you adding another layer. I have to coach John, Nancy, and Bill. So that's another challenge that you add. So ideally, you need to have a dedicated manager.
I agree. So that's actually a really good way to think about an organization, put the infrastructure in, start hiring, start expanding, make it really effective. Ivan, how can people get a hold of you? Because so many people want an inside sales team, but don't have the expertise to set one up. And what they end up doing is doing a half decent job and getting really poor results. So how do people work with you to set one of those up? How do they get a hold of you?
So the question is, how can people get a hold of me?
Yeah, definitely. Because, right now, inside sales is the
I'm on
only
LinkedIn.
game.
The best way is we can connect LinkedIn. It's Ivan Gomez, MBA. Probably one of the only one Ivan Gomez, in the greater Washington D.C. area. Glad to socialize, connect, network, and exchange ideas with anyone, and help, answer any questions that anyone may have in the areas of, sales development, inside sales, sales process, playbooks. It could be a number of things. I've been in business for 25 years, and currently with a cybersecurity company. But from time to time, you get people asking just questions, and I'll be glad to socialize ideas with like-minded individuals.
Brilliant. Ivan, thanks so much for being on the show. It was an educational experience having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Mark, great to talk to you as always. Take care. Until next time.
So, what we're going to do is that was a good show actually, because it wasn't like just bullshitting around. It was more like, hey, here are the steps you need to do to build an organization.
You bet. It's always good to talk to you. Let me know if you have any questions. Yeah.
Cool. What we're going to do is record a little bit of video here to promo that. And so here goes. Hey everyone, just had a brilliant interview with Ivan Gomez. And what we looked at, rather than doing a traditional podcast talking about general topics, I said, Ivan, if you were building an inside sales team, how would you do it? And Ivan took us step by step how you build a highly effective team. Ivan, if there's one thing that you want to share with the viewers so they listen to the podcast, what was the one idea you shared that you think would entice people to go, oh my God, I got to listen to this?
All right. So we talk about a couple of things, but I think the biggest takeaway is one, answering the question, if my go-to-market strategy is inside sales, how do I go about it? And then, if you already have an inside sales or sales development team already in place, the next thing is, how do I get started? And what are some.
Brilliant. And the thing you did really brilliantly well was not kind of go generally. You went down specific. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. If you've got a team that you want to improve or you want to start a team, listen to the podcast. Ivan, thanks so much for being on the show.
You bet, Omar. Always a pleasure. Take care.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at nolimitselling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.